Now we will move to our next speaker, Silvia Parigi from Istituto Italiano per gli Studi Filosofici. Sorry if I spelled something wrong. Silvia will give a talk about Jesuits. Jesuits and action at a distance, Athanasius Kircher's universal magnetism. I think all Jesuits who watch us in this moment are getting excited to hear something about the very important historian Jesuits from 16th or 17th century, I guess. So I will display the lecture of Silvia now, and we will have a discussion after it.
It is a well-founded opinion that the Society of Jesus gives a remarkable support to the study of physics in the 17th century. The Jesuits' works lay the foundations of optics, mechanics, magnetism, and electricity. Nevertheless, it is very difficult to define the nature and extent of a Jesuit science, about which, indeed, there are few specific studies. The Jesuits remained within an eclectic Aristotelianism, constantly searching for mediations and compromises. Athanasius Kircher, defined as Germanus Incredibilis, or the last man who knew everything, is an exemplary witness of such eclecticism. He is an extraordinary figure in the 17th century Christian philosophy, both for his encyclopedic contribution to many different fields of research, for his constant apologetic and missionary effort, and for his organizational skills as a teacher, as a scholar, as a creator of wonderful machines, and of the very well-known museum in Collegio Romano. The Jesuit polymath mastered 24 languages. In the 46 years he spent in Rome, he saw 6 popes. He left more than 40 printed works and 2,000 letters and manuscripts. My speech will face Kircher's contribution to curious physics, that is to say, his universal magnetism, as it is exposed in the 3rd book of Magnes Sive de Arte Magnetica, published in 1641. That book, titled Mundus Sive Catena Magnetica, contains the widest discussions on magnetism in the modern age. Kircher's universal magnetism stands on few principles. 1. Everything acts by means of effluvia, that is to say, in Aristotelian terms, through the diffusion of its quality. 2. An effluxus can be conceived only by means of certain short lines spreading in a circle. 3. Magnet acts this way. Therefore, the logical conclusion is that the forces and qualities of each thing, which acts on every other thing by means of reciprocal radiations, may be called magnetic. The core concept is sphera activitatis sive orbis virtutis, defined as that region of space within which the active qualities of bodies spread through material effluvia. This concept is a typical Jesuit compromise. Though refusing actions at a distance with rare unanimity, the Jesuits largely use the concept of the sphere of activity of a body. Therefore, the magnetic powers exist, but only within certain limits set by God. He did not create nature idle and without any fruits, ociosa et sine fructum. But at the same time, he circumscribes the activity of the spheres of effluvia, thus preventing nature from dissolving in a progressum in infinitum, which is repugnant to reason, no less than to nature itself. Therefore, actions at a distance are not rejected to cure, but only if unlimited, sine termino. Leonardo Garzoni, Niccolò Cabeo, Jean Roberti, Athanasius Kircher, Kaspar Schott, Francesco Lanna Terzi agree about this. Moreover, the sphere of activity has a greater or lesser extension according to the more or less cautious temperament of the authors themselves. Some of them use that concept only to explain the properties and behavior of the magnetic needle, whereas Kircher thinks that everything has a sphere of activity and dilates that principle up to heaven in order to explain the astrological influences within the framework of a very suggestive but theoretically demanding universal magnetism. As listed in the subtitle of his work, Kircher deals with the nature of magnet, its marvelous effects upon the elements, stones, plants, and animals, its uses in all the arts and sciences, with a new method and many still unknown secrets of nature by means of every kind of physical, medical, chemical, and mathematical experiments. An horror vacui transpires from such a project, which highlights the argumentative bulimia of Kircher's work, full of actions, definitions, propositions, and theorems, in spite of its definitely not deductive structure. Nevertheless, Kircher preliminarily declares, and often repeats throughout his work, that he wants to discriminate fabulous stories in his inquiry about the prodigious virtues of the magnet. It is necessary to find the right means between the credulity of those men who consider such virtues as downright marvelous, and the opposed credulity of those who a priori refuse to admit such powers. In both cases, no analysis can be made. Magnus begins with the analogy between micro and macrocosm. As the bones of the human body, so the stone parts constituting the body of the earth have a certain magnetic structures from pole to pole, like a spine of the world. Among the examples of magnetic attraction, there are the bones of the sparrow hawk, capable of attracting gold, and the horn of rhinoceros, which attracts iron, whereas the weapon solved is a mere magnetic superstition. Kircher does not believe that the earth is a big magnet, and explicitly attacks William Gilbert's theory. The magnetic power spreads in a sphere of activity, which is interpreted in Aristotelian terms as an intrinsic quality emanating from the whole form of the magnet. Such virtue acts upon those friendly, proportioned, and similar bodies, amica, proporzionata, et consimilia, placed within that space. Kircher's work culminates in the third and last book, Mundus sive catena magnetica. In the frontispiece, the sense and extent of universal magnetism are wonderfully illustrated. A scroll with the motto, I'm quoting, all the things are connected by secret ties. Omnia nodis arcanis connexa quiescunt. Joins the links of a great chain, connecting the archetypal world, dominated by God's eye, the sidereal world, the sublunary world, and the human microcosm, as well as all the sciences, from theology, placed in the highest position, to philosophy and physics, from rhetoric to music, from perspective to mechanics, from geography to astronomy and arithmetic, from poetry to medicine, from natural magic to cosmography. The key of nature, clavis naturae, is the agreement and disagreement of things, that is to say, sympathy and antipathy, exemplified by the usual list of friendships and enmities in the three reigns of nature. The theoretical cornerstones of universal magnetism are exposed in just 2 pages through 4 quick passages. As everything acts by means of effluxi, that is to say, through the diffusion of its quality. But an effluxus, I'm quoting, cannot be conceived except by means of certain very short lines circularly spread. And given that the magnet acts this way, it follows that, and I'm quoting again, the forces and qualities of all those things acting the ones upon the others by means of a mutual radiation may be called magnetic. As to the way in which that force acts, Kircher conjectures clouds of effluvia, little atmospheres, or spheres of activities surrounding magnetic, electric, or elementary bodies. Kircher's theory is very simple, almost poor, and quickly exposed, but the number of examples and magnetic stories is impressive. Because of the aforesaid inclination, a magnet disposes itself in the direction of the terrestrial poles according to its nature and avoids any other position. The magnetic force explains the unbearable tickle of the visual muscles produced by bright red color as well. The paralysis induced by the touch of the torpedo fish, which is one of the numerous magnetic animals, the sudden stupor provoked by the bite of the tarantula, the form of the rabid dog impressed in its urine, the hate of the ants towards the organo and the heart of the hupo, the property owned by the liver of chameleon to dissolve love potions. Kircher expresses the demanding intention to reduce miracles in his explanation of natural effects. Nos ne nimium miracula multiplicare videamur. But, as it often happens with 16th and 17th century authors, the explanations he gives are often more fabulous than those he rejects. Kircher's credulity does not include the remora fish, a real sea magnet, which, according to Pliny, caused Antony's defeat at Actio, stopping his ship, which it had stuck to. This little fish is mere fabulous because there is no proportion between the immense mass of a sheep and the exiguity of that fish. Nothing analogous has ever happened in the Mediterranean or other seas. Therefore, the sudden stop of a ship has not to be attributed to the remora fish, as some inexpert and too credulous philosophers do, or to occult qualities and obscure celestial influxes, but simply to sea currents. Nevertheless, Kircher believes in the magnetism of the torpedo fish, which circularly emits an insensible narcotic quality opposed to the nerves and muscles, thus freezing the blood and spirit in the veins. He also accepts the marvelous phenomenon of the anthropomorphous fish, mermaid or seaman, found in the Indian Oriental seas. His bones attract the blood in that they have anti-hemorrhagic properties, while his meat, a substance like mummy, is supposed to have a paralyzing effect because of the attraction of all the human spirits. Like a book of secrets, Magnus contains some recipes drawn from the Arabic books of potable gold, elixir vitae, fifth essence of the Fyriac, universal antidote, heaven, living water, or vegetable mercury. Consider it as a panacea. As in a magical treatise, Kircher writes of the double magnetism of man who attracts his necessary daily nourishment from the elementary bodies with his elementary body by means of the inclinations of hunger and thirst, whereas with his ethereal spirit, he attracts the arts, the sciences, and all the faculties of the human knowledge through the race of superior virtues. The magnetic power ends up to coinciding with Platonic love, which joins the superior forms and effects to the inferior ones in a great
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Silvia. That was Silvia Parigi from Istituto Italiano per Studi Filosofici. I can see that Silvia is with us, so we can move to the questions. Do we have any questions from the participants on site or the participants on WebEx? I see we have one or two questions on the stream. Maybe I will read them and then we can move to the other questions. So the first question is not really a question, it's like a comment. Anyway, I will read it. I thought it was Leibniz who knew everything. It probably refers to what you said, that Kircher was the last man who knew everything. And the other question is more interesting. What are philosophical implications of Kircher's magnetism? And how does it contribute to the Christian philosophy? This might be interesting.
Yes, the philosophical implications of Kircher magnetism. But yes, Kircher's magnetism is a philosophical theory. So its implications are in the direction of natural magic and natural philosophy that are deeply interconnected in this century, in the 17th century. So magnetism is universal. Magnetism is an aspect, an important theory within the framework of natural magic and natural philosophy. The core concept is the idea of a unique magnetic chain which links together everything in nature, from the magnet up to God. God is defined as the link. I'm quoting from Kircher, the living and eternal magnet. So this great magnetic chain starts from God and links every phenomenon, every science, every kind of learning. Anyway, everything in nature. It's a kind of Renaissance theory. It's deeply linked to Renaissance magic. I'm not sure to have, I don't know if this is a complete answer or if there are some other doubts and questions. I have to answer too.
We have received just one right now. How the concept of magnetism refers to the concept of God? Does it explain the way in which God remains everything in existence and how he acts in the world?
I think not. God is only the final link of this universal chain. And there is a kind of Platonic love, of mutual love, which links each link of this chain. So God is loved by everything, and everything ends up in God. But I think this is a new Platonic theory, and a new Platonic theory, and is a Renaissance theory as well. But I don't think this is a theological theory.